Right. We're on. We're sorry about that.
Yeah. It's alright.
I
should be good at saying this by now, shouldn't I? Yeah, my name's Sarah Goodley, and I'm a children and young persons counsellor, and I'm also a complementary therapist, or a regional therapist as I prefer to call it these days. And I've had to pretty much drop out of the system on the counselling side to support people like yourself.
Yeah.
And people also that have had their children removed by the state.
Yeah.
Stolen, as I would say.
Yeah.
And these two things are very much intertwined and interlinked, and we can't really, I mean, obviously they're separate issues, but you can't really separate them because they're very much together, these issues.
Uh-huh.
And especially when we look at the institutional child abuse and the fodder basically that's being created by the child stealing for the institutional child abuse as well. So I first got interested in this more than 25 years ago. I was actually working as a barmaid at the time, and we had a guy used to come in. This guy actually lived in my shed for 2 years. He was an alcoholic, and in the summer he used to stay in my shed. And he was called, his nickname was Nelly, or Michael O'Neill, as was his proper name.
Yeah.
And he died some time ago of alcoholism. But he was telling me 25 years ago about the things that he experienced. He spent some time at a private school in Hull, but also he spent some time in some fairly local care homes. He got moved around a bit by all accounts. Unfortunately, I never wrote the names of those care homes and things that he was in down. But he was telling me some of the things that he witnessed, and I suspect happened to him. He would always tell about what happened to other people, but not really himself. But I suspect that because how he became alcohol dependent. This guy was a bloody genius as well. He was an absolute genius. And he used to tell me stuff all that time ago, which stuck with me.
Yeah. What school did you go to?
What school did I go to?
No, what school did he go to?
Well, this is what I mean. I can't remember. I know he went to a private school in Hull, and apparently it was the one where they used to wear the nice little sailors' uniforms that he was at.
Right, right.
And I don't know whether when he was in care, if he was in care when he went to that private school or not. But I know there was stuff happening there, and there was stuff happening in the care homes. And I can't remember what care homes he said.
Right.
And he used to talk in riddles quite a lot as well. He was a bit, because he didn't expect anyone to believe him. Yeah. So he would hint at things, and he would sort of talk in riddles a little bit. So it was quite difficult to get out of him the stuff. But the things he did tell me, that he witnessed a social worker making a pair of siblings sleep together and things like that, and have sex and stuff.
Yeah.
So he told me all that. It was 25 years ago, and so I suppose because of the stories that he used to tell me, it made me a lot more receptive to when people like yourself came forward.
Yeah.
But they just weren't believed. But I was sort of a lot more open to believing what had happened to them because of my own experiences, Nelly, and the things I've heard. It just seemed to be a bit of a magnet for people coming to tell me this sort of thing. So.
Yeah. Right. So you was telling us about also you've had experiences with a lot of kids in kids homes.
Yeah.
Around the Hull area and stuff. Now you was telling me about a police officer that had been he'd been found to have broken 2 pupils' arms, and was later given a job in a kids home called Dayton Close School that I was in. Can you give us a bit of history about this? What you
right? No, you've got it a bit the wrong way around. This bloke originally was a police officer.
Yeah.
Then he went to work in Dayton Close School.
Yeah.
While he was in Dayton Close School, he spent some time. He was actually on garden leave from there, while allegations of abuse were looked into.
Yeah.
Now, he used to go into, I don't know how much I can say on this because there's somebody else involved, but he used to go into a premises and have a drink every day.
Yeah.
When he was on leave, and he was absolutely secure in the knowledge. He was very arrogant apparently, and he felt very assured that he would be found not, that there was no case to answer.
Yeah.
And so he then went, I think when Dayton closed down, went to work in the school in Grimsby, where he was manager of the unit where the most troubled children were.
Yeah, what unit was that? Can you remember what unit that was?
It was called the Red Unit.
Right. Do you know where that was based?
I don't know whether I want to give the name of that school. I have to have a look at what I can say, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it was in a school in Grimsby that served the sort of problem areas, if you like.
Right.
And so while he was there, 2 children had limbs broken in that particular unit.
Right.
And again, investigations came back that he wasn't at fault, although he was there on both occasions.
Yeah.
And I witnessed, personally, a child who I'd had to take to him because this child had brought a knife into school on an occasion. He was being bullied. He was actually a victim, but he brought a knife in for his own protection.
Yeah.
But because of that, when he came into school, he had to go and be searched. And it was this gentleman that, if we can call him that, that used to do the searching. So I went to take this boy to be searched, and he never searched him, but all he did was ritually humiliate him in front of a classroom of children, where he told a joke about Nazis and slapped him very hard round the face as part of this joke. Now, did
the slap knock the kid off his feet or anything like that?
Well, no, it was a very hard slap. It didn't knock him off his feet, but it was a very hard slap, and it was abuse. It was absolute abuse.
Yeah.
But what I realised he was doing was that he was trying to embroil me in his abuse. So he was trying to groom me, if you like, because then, and that's how I'd seen him sort of work before, is that he would get fellow staff to witness something like that was really on the edge or across the line.
Yeah.
And then of course, if you didn't do anything, and he was a very intimidating guy, if you didn't do anything, then you were embroiled in that behaviour.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from now.
Yeah, whereas I went straight, I was disgusted, and I just went straight and reported it up and reported it up and reported it up. And again, it went nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an obvious case of abuse. Something should have happened to him for doing that to the child. So it was an absolute no-no what he did.
Yeah.
But, you know, I realised that other people weren't as strong as I was as to go and report that. And then, of course, you're complicit in the abuse.
Yeah, that's
if you don't.
Yeah.
I mean, as it happened, that was the start of the end of my career there, because it causes, obviously, you've gone against the system, if you like, and it causes a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And I left because I couldn't stand to see the children. I didn't want the children to see me accepting that behaviour.
Yeah. And
it wasn't just that. It was other things as well, but I had to leave really.
Yeah.
Because
for your own
of the
morals.
stuff that's going on. But yeah, the interesting thing with that is that character, I now realise. When I saw your video the other day, I was in conversation with another gentleman who knew this character, and it was one of those oh shit moments, you know, like when you realise the connections.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen and from what I've heard from other cases, it does seem to be that when you have an abusive character, they do get protection if they themselves have been part or witnessed something worse. Right,
I don't quite follow you there. You mean?
Right. What I'm saying is, my concern is, and I don't know whether this is in this case, but my concern is that when someone is getting away with a lot of stuff, or appears to be getting away with a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of questions, and there's a lot of how did he get away with that sort of thing, conversations. Obviously, I'm not privy to the whole lot, but from what I've seen in other cases, when someone has been themselves embroiled in something and has something over somebody else.
Yeah. You're on about this police officer, aren't you?
Yeah. there does seem to be a certain level of protection being offered.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying there now. Yeah, that's clear. Yeah, so at the end of the day, there's other people within the kids' homes that will go along with it, whereas you yourself didn't, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and this wasn't a children's home. This was in a normal run-of-the-mill school where I was.
Right.
You know, it wasn't in a children's home setting, but I could very much see how, if you're not very, very strong, how you could go along with it and then be embroiled in it yourself through default, if you like.
So going back to Dayton Close School, would there have been records of why he was laid off? There is no records, there was no inquiry. I mean, what happened with that?
I just know that he went back to work after a certain amount of garden leave. Yeah, with an exemplary record.
So they basically pushed it to one side and let him work back at Dayton Close School before he got a job. For a time.
I think he left there when it closed. It stopped being well, what would you call it, a naughty boys' home? I don't know.
Well, they classified it as a maladjusted children's home, and then later they renamed it as Dayton Close Special School.
Yeah. It did become more a school for more disabled people, people with autism and things like that. After it changed sort of the way it was, I think. Yeah. Which is interesting in itself. And then it was closed down for good, and now it's derelict.
Yeah, I've since been up there a couple of times and had a little look around, but a farmer chap always comes out and asked me, who are you, why are you here? And I said, I used to tell him, I used to be in this school years ago when they had cattle in the fields and all that kind of stuff. But normally the farmer guy actually owns it, and I think he rented it out to the council. It's been up for sale for years and years and years and never gone anywhere.
But don't you think that's interesting because it's quite a beautiful building?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a very old, very.
Don't you think that's interesting? Don't you think that's interesting that it's never been sold?
No, it is very strange. Yeah, and maybe in years to come it can be reopened and revamped and all of that. I don't know, but obviously buildings like that can be saved, but it is going to dilapidation.
Yeah.
But bloody hell, what a building it was. Or is. Yeah. Anyway, so. We at the beginning of the gig then we're maybe on about having a bit about yourself and what you do within the understanding of how humans are built, the way they form their opinions, the way they act, how pregnancy can affect the child because the mothers had to go through certain stresses and things like that. You talked about that. I'm wondering if you've about.
Yeah, I would love to talk about it because I think this is very important in this case because. What I talk about is epigenetics. Now, epigenetics is very much a hidden science. Yeah. There's not a lot of people out there talking about epigenetics, and there should be, because it's really sound science behind it.
Could you quickly explain what epigenetics are so people are going to get an understanding of what sort of things to expect?
It means above genetics. Yeah. And what really, when they did the Human Genome Project, they thought it was going to go on to about 2050, and it was over within about 2 years because they only found around about 25,000 genes. Right. But what they realised is it's not the genes, it's the genetic potential. So we've got all of this in our DNA, we've got all of this genetic potential coming down from everything that our ancestors have experienced, felt, thought, had done to them, everything in the environment has all affected every generation, and it's all come down as potential information. But it's the current environment that turns these genes on and off, whether we need them or not. So things like stress in pregnancy is very, very important. As to, and I haven't got time, unfortunately, to go into that now, but because it's a whole talk on its own. But when a mother is stressed in pregnancy, that's a massive, massive deal. When you've got all this if you've got a lot of transgenerational trauma going on, then what you need is really good nutrition and love. It's the oxytocin, and really good nutrition, and that's what you need. And unfortunately, that's not what pregnant women are getting.
You was touching on there how it can psychologically affect the child in the future with dyslexia and problems like that.
Yeah.
That suddenly when they weren't there in the family, and then you were. I mean, just touching on it give people a taster about the diversity of your conversation, eh?
We laugh how many people in the sort of our movement, if you like, whether you call it truth, whatever you want to call it, how many people, like, you're dyslexic, I'm dyslexic, there's so many dyslexics within the system, because we have had to sort of think differently, and we've had to experience things differently, and we can't spell, we're not under the spell. I think that's massive. Now, dyslexia,
absolutely. I totally agree with that. We're not under the spell, are we? Because we see things in a totally different way of looking at it. Yeah,
exactly. But in effect, that is quite refreshing. That the more that they do to us, the more that we come through and think differently and think out ways of getting around it and out of the box. And that is pure how epigenetics works. It's all about survival, really.
Yeah.
And that could be short-term survival or long-term survival. But the important thing is that when all this stuff is acknowledged, and when you understand it, the really important thing that I want to get across at this event that you're organising on the 17th of July is that we don't have to be victims in all this.
Yeah.
That when we have knowledge and forgiveness, if you like, as well, when we have knowledge and about our situation, but also about the situation of the people above us that have come before, then we can change our DNA. We don't have to be victims of it. We can think differently. We can choose to be something completely different to what we are, and it will happen.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I think your video last night that I watched that you posted me was absolutely fantastic. A big eye-opener. It was almost like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. Suddenly a lot of understanding became real. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
a lot of what I've thought about and how I see it being is you're kind of making that a solid thing, like to believe in. You know what I mean? Rather than just thoughts and the way I've worked things out. It was a lot like when I got told I was dyslexic, when I got tested for it and got told, yes, you are dyslexic, and this is the sort of person you are, and they explained to me who I was when it was all correct, and then they explained to me why I behave like how I do. So that was another massive weight off my shoulders, and it was pretty much what your video did for me last night as well. So you just know when things are right, eh?
Yeah, definitely. We have a laugh and cut on the radio show that I do. We call it a truth-gasm. When you get that tingle when you hear something that just is really there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What radio show is that you use?
Well, I used to do the Irate Women show on Critical Mass Radio, and now I guest on, and I've only just started on it, so excuse me because it's The Enemy Within.
The Enemy Within.
The Enemy Within now. I guest with Andy and Tom.
Yeah. Do you have an email address or anything anybody can contact you on in case they're interested?
The best way to get in touch with me is on Facebook. That's where I do most of my work, if you like. And if I sort of filter people on Facebook, and then I'll add them to Skype and things.
Yeah.
I use Facebook as my interface, if you like. So just Sarah Goodley. If you put Sarah Goodley, there's only 2 Sarah Goodleys, and it's pretty obvious which one I
am. Sarah Michelle Goodley on. Yeah. Okay. Right, that's brilliant. That is. Well, I look forward to you coming and doing speeches on this and exposing and enlightening people as well, by the sounds of things.
Well, it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom, does it? This is
absolutely.
People switch off after a while.
Yeah.
And I think that empowering people to, if nothing else, it's empowering to break the cycle for the next generation.
Yeah.
And knowing what tools they can use to help themselves, so that we don't pass this shit down.
Yep. Well, thank you very much anyway for that, and I look forward to speaking to you, and I'm sure a lot of people will be well interested in what you're doing for us. Easy life.
Yeah, you too. I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait to meet everybody.
Alright. Speak to you soon then.
Take care then. Thanks.